Victoria 3 came out a couple of days ago. I've played it now for 13 hours and my first impression is... it's a pretty fun game. And in this video, I'll explain why, so stick around. Hey, what's up? My name is GameStach, welcome to the channel. I make videos about anime, video games, and in particular Paradox games. I've been playing Paradox games for quite a while now. EU4 being my favorite, which you will know if you've watched my channel before. You probably also like Paradox games or you wouldn't have clicked on this video. So why not subscribe to my channel while you're here? That would really help me out a lot and I would really appreciate it. And today I'm going to share my first impressions of Victoria 3 with you. Honestly, that is a bit hard for me because if you know me, you know that I like to be in-depth and complete. But today I'll do my best to give you a short first impression of this game. Also, I'm very sorry for the terrible background that I have here. I'm currently switching studios, so I'm hoping to get a new setup really soon with a new green screen and some decent studio lights, so very sorry for this horrible background. So, in this video I will discuss Victoria 3 in general, so what is the setting of the game and what is the main goal, what can you do in this game, and how difficult is the game compared to EU4 and CK3 for example. A game of Victoria takes place from 1836 until 1936. If you hadn't caught on by now, the name Victoria refers to the Victorian age. And therefore industrialization is a big aspect of this game. When you first start the game, it gives you 5 options to play this game. You can learn the basics of the game. You can do a campaign focused on industry and economy. You can do a campaign focused on military expansion. You can do a campaign focused on building a great country. Or you can just do whatever you want in sandbox mode. So this leads to the question, what can you actually do in the game in order to achieve those goals? So let me start by telling you the thing that I've been doing mostly in this game, and that is building up my industry and pumping up my economy. The way this is done is essentially by choosing what you want to expand your industry in. You can see your balancing goods in the market screen over here. Over here in the balance column, you can see what good you have a surplus of. So for example, we have a surplus of fish and what goods you're lacking. So here you can see we have a shortage of wood. And what I like to do is produce everything myself so that I don't have to rely on trade. So how do you do that? How do you expand your industry? Well, you build buildings and people will start to work in those buildings. So for example, if you're lacking in wood, you can build logging camps. And as you can see, building a logging camp will produce wood and hardwood, but it will also consume tools. If you finally have that resource, you can use that in the production of more advanced goods. For example, we can see over here that for the production of tools, we also need wood. But it's not just as easy as just build the buildings and you're done. No, there also has to be a certain demand for that product. And there is automatically a demand for a product if you're lacking it in your market. So what it essentially means is that if you're lacking a product and you start producing this product, you will automatically have a demand for it and you won't experience any trouble with your factories. Okay, I said I wouldn't let this video become a tutorial, but I kind of have the idea that it is becoming one. So I'm not going to go more in depth right now. But summarized, you can build buildings. Those buildings produce goods. You can use those goods to make other goods. And you can even alter the production method to boost your output. And you can use that to build your economy. So for example, over here you can see the production method for textile mills. If you click over here, you can see, I'm currently consuming 120 fabric and I'm putting out 135 clothes. And if I switch to dye workshops, I'm now also consuming dye, but I'm making 45 clothes more. Very nice. Then military. You can wage war, but it's a bit different than EU4 and Crusader Kings 3, for example. But first, let me refer back to the buildings we were talking about before. You can also produce products for war, like small arms, artillery, and explosives, which are used by your troops. You can also upgrade your troops that way. But anyway, as to the aspect of waging war, it goes a little something like this. You first have to declare what you want in a so-called diplomatic play. That diplomatic play consists of 3 parts. First you say what you want, the other party says what they want, and other nations will declare to what side of the conflict they are leaning. You can spend maneuvers and convince nations to join your side. If your side is extremely powerful, the other party can choose to back down. You can also spend maneuvers to add more war goals. If neither backs down, you will end up in a war. When in a war, you have to mobilize your generals and troops. Then it's just a matter of choosing the front you have to fight at and you're basically done. The rest will happen automatically. So waging war is not really that exciting, but knowing Paradox will probably change that in an upcoming expansion or something. Then, lastly, building a great nation. A big last aspect of the game is diplomacy, laws, and your government. I haven't really had that big of an experience with this, but let me tell you what I do know. Most things can be found over here in your politics screen. Let me skip these first 2 tabs for now, let's go straight to laws. And over here you can see all kinds of laws that you can enact. The The number over here indicates how many options you have. So we can change from per capita taxation to land-based taxation or consumption-based taxation. But you will also see that sometimes you cannot choose anything. For example, over here at colonization, we cannot choose anything. And that has to do with the way that our government is built up. Because some parties in your government will not enact certain laws. I'm not really sure if explaining it correctly, but that's basically what it comes down to. So let me show you. So let's say I want to build some more colonies. And if I hover over this, it says that can be enacted, must be above 0% support. So let's go back to our government. So we now know that with the landowners in the Church of Sweden, we cannot enact any colonization laws. So let's take a look at the industrialists, for example. If you click over here and go to laws, we can see all the laws that the industrialists want to pass. So if we scroll down, we can see that they do want a colonization law, namely colonial exploitation. So how can we make sure that we can enact this law? Well, in order to do that, we have to reform our government. For example, we can kick out the Church of Sweden, put in the industrialists, confirm. And if I now go to laws, I now can enact a law. And if I then click over here, it will start the process of enacting this law. This will take time, this will pop up events, but eventually you can enact this law. A second thing you can do in politics is upgrade your institutions. So the way I interpret institutions right now is that it's kind of like a law that you can upgrade in some sense. So let me show you what I mean. For example, here we have law enforcement. Right now it gives us minus 10% landowners' political strength and minus 20% state penalties from turmoil. If we click over here, we'll grow this to level 2 and we'll get the effects that you see on screen. However, this takes some time. This takes about a year to enact. And if it is enacted, you see that it will cost us more bureaucracy. I haven't really discussed any of the stuff up on top because it doesn't really matter that much. I would say you'll find out yourself what it does. But since this is turning into a kind of tutorial anyway, I might as well explain it right now. So let me just do that. This is your bureaucracy. So bureaucracy has to do with the taxation of your country, with how many generals you can have, the amount of trade routes. Then you have authority, which is used in, for example, over here in consumption taxes. So you can add more taxes, get more money, and it will cost you authority. And influence, which is used, for example, if you're trying to improve relations with a nation, or if you're having a trade agreement, which I have right now. You can see at the bottom here that is costing me some influence every month. And then, of course, your money, which is I think kind of useful to mention right now. So because it took me some while to get this. So you can see this bar below the money. If the bar is gold, which it is right now, it means I have gold in my reserves. Over here we can see it's 500,000 in reserves. If it is red, I have loaned money. You can then see the amount of cash that you have loaned over here. And obviously the number above says how much you're making or losing each week. And then lastly, the difficulty. When it comes to the difficulty, I would say that Crusader Kings 2 is probably the most difficult one. When it comes to the difficulty of this game, I think I would rank Victoria 3 somewhere between CK3 and EU4. It's definitely easier than EU4, but I have to say that it is a bit more difficult than CK3. I think that mainly has to do with some very not intuitive menus and the fact that the economy part of Victoria can be quite difficult. So let me end this video by saying this. I am enjoying this game as of right now. It's not like Imperator Rome, which I didn't enjoy at all. And I'm also really wondering, are you playing Victoria 3 right now? And if you are you enjoying it? And if you don't have Victoria 3 and you're still a bit unsure whether to buy it, or you have any questions about the game, then please leave them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.